Now, if you're thinking about hitting that wildcard button in FPL Game Week 11, don't worry, I've got you covered with not one, not two, but three different wildcard drafts for you to potentially look at for this upcoming game week. Now, before we dive into today's video, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as we're trying to hit 25,000 subscribers before the end of the season, and it is only possible with your amazing support. So let's take a look then at my first wildcard draft that I have built. I feel this one is probably the more balanced kind of side, not, obviously too dependent on the defense, not kind of, too dependent on midfield. It's got three pretty decent forwards for the next few weeks as well, in Mateta, João Pedro, and Erling Haaland. Let's start off first then with João Pedro and why people might potentially be on a wild card, or even some people might be looking to transfer this guy in ahead of this game week. I'm hoping this is the 11-5 one. It wasn't. That was the wrong one. This is the 11-5 one we wanted. Looking at the projected goals then for the next two game weeks, Chelsea are the best. Like, they've got some great fixtures coming up, especially within the next two. After that, in game week 13, a lot of people are potentially thinking about a free hit as well. That could be a strategy you go for. Then, of course, maybe look to get somebody like a Walter in with decent fixtures in 14 and 15 there. That is definitely a possible option that a lot of people could be looking at on a wild card this week. And, of course, if they might potentially want to bring João Pedro back in. Of course, the succulent fixture this week is going to be against Wolves. That is a very, very good fixture. Obviously, they've just sacked their managers. There might be a new manager bounce. However, that team right now feels really, really poor and genuinely one of the worst sides within the Premier League right now. So I think I would be pretty confident in saying that, Chelsea probably will win that game, probably by a few goals as well. So maybe if you are looking for a 1 to 2 game week punt on the wildcard, João Pedro could be that guy. I know a lot of us have already just transferred him out. However, he actually had a really good performance against Spurs, something we haven't seen for a long period of time. So if you did sell him, don't worry, of course. Like, you didn't make a mistake. Like, the guy just was not performing and all of a sudden randomly started performing again. So that's sometimes the way that FPL works. Don't deep it too much. In terms of the other forward then that we had within that lineup, of course, as you can see, we did have Jean-Philippe Mateta. 6 goals for him so far in the Premier League. A great set of fixtures coming up. We saw that with the 11-5 data we just ran through there. There are some great fixtures coming up for Crystal Palace over the next 5 game weeks. Around game week 16 though is of course where I would be looking to sell off any Crystal Palace players. So we had Richards and Mateta within that wildcard draft, the first one we're going through. Obviously, after that point, the fixtures do get a little bit more difficult, and it is still being kind of, rumoured that Crystal Palace are just going to have to suck it up and play that Carabao Cup game in the midweek, the same midweek as having a European clash, and of course, Premier League games either side of that of the weekend, then the following week being Christmas. So that is where they're being told to suck it up. So I think once you get past that Fulham fixture, a lot of the Crystal Palace players I personally would be looking to sell. But of course, as you can see here, they are facing off against some of the worst sides in the league for XG conceded in Wolves, Burnley. Fulham haven't been great either in that metric. Neither have Manchester United. Brighton aren't really putting up any trees either. So I do feel quite confident that Jean-Philippe Mateta is going to be a very solid pickup on a wild card this week. Over the next 5 game weeks, I do think he is just going to be a very steady player as well across the course of that board. Heading back to the team then itself, taking a look at some other obviously big call-outs. Declan Rice is another one we're going to go through in a second. The other midfielders that I have selected here, Ndai, Enzo and Bruno Fernandes, all have multiple routes to points. Enzo was extremely unfortunate not to have came away with an attacking return. Again, looking at those Chelsea short-term fixtures, feels like he could be a really good option. United's long-term fixtures as well are absolutely essential, and I've banged on about Bruno Fernandes in my transfer targets video. He is a guy, like I said, that just has the multiple avenues to points. He's got penalties, he's got corners, he's got free kicks, he's got DEFCON, his baseline bonus is exceptionally good, and his underlying numbers as well are pretty steady across the board. So overall, a pretty decent little pickup. As well, with Declan Rice, let's head back to him. Obviously, we teased it. No, I went for the wrong one again. We teased Declan Rice at the start. He has just been a very consistent player. One of the best scoring midfielders within the game so far right now. 63 points for him. He's got the ability to hit defensive contributions. Of course, as well, has set piece share for Arsenal, who surprisingly are top of that metric, not only for goals scored from set pieces so far, far this season, but also in terms of expected goals from their set plays as well. So Declan Rice does feel like a very, very kind of smart pickup within that 6.7 million bracket. I think obviously he's just been ticking along very nicely. There's still some good Arsenal fixtures as well. We saw that with the 11 of eye data. Still some decent numbers in terms of their projected goals. But again, here you've got a guy that has got multiple avenues to points, and I really like that about the starting four within that midfield. If we head back to the team, you can see all of these players have a little bit something extra to their locker, kind of just over like a Minter there, for example, who we'd have on the bench. They've either got some sort of set piece share, can hit those defensive contribution numbers, their baseline bonus is good, or of course have penalties in the terms of Ndai, Enzo and Bruno Fernandes. That of course is the first draft. Let me know how you would rate that one, and let's move on to the second draft. Okay, let's move on to the second draft that we're going to cover, and this one is primarily going to be focused around the triple Arsenal defence. Their defensive numbers so far this season have been absolutely ridiculous. Their projected numbers as well, if we bring up the 11 of fire numbers, are looking great over the next 5 to 6 game weeks. If you look even further than that, all the way up until game week 19, that run just continues as well. So as you see in here, a 55% chance of a clean sheet next week, 45% chance in game week 12. There are other standouts as well, being in game week 14 and game week 15 with, 48 and 44 respectively. You also factor in that their lowest there is 35%, which is absolutely ridiculous, and definitely something I think a lot of us need to, of course, be taking on board for future game weeks. And maybe that triple Arsenal defence is opening itself up, because let's head over to Fantasy Football Scout, taking a look at their expected goals conceded chart. This is one that I've put together. It's got XG set plays in there, big chances conceded, set play goals, and of course clean sheets and goals conceded. It's got all the stuff you want to be looking at when, of course, focusing on what probably defense is to target, and from obviously an attacking perspective, and of course obviously from a defensive perspective. You see an Arsenal at the top of this list, only 3 goals conceded so far this season, 10 goals from set plays, 7 clean sheets, the best XG conceded in the league, the best expected goals from set plays as well, which bodes well for, of course, Timber and Gabriel within our side. And as you can see here, 6 big chances conceded across 10 games is absolutely ridiculous. So this Arsenal defence are honestly absolutely smashing it out of the park right now. That is why I've gone for that triple up in terms of Arsenal defence, because their numbers are just looking absolutely ridiculous. Saka and Gyökeres as well are a bit hit and miss at the moment, to be honest. Some weeks they're good, some weeks they're bad. Of course, if you're not really feeling like Declan Rice is the right use of that third Arsenal spot, then I understand it. And if you are going to use that third Arsenal spot and you don't fancy Saka, Gyökeres or Rice, then of course for me, I think it has to be the triple up in terms of defence, because look at the numbers they are putting up here. They are absolutely ridiculous. And we spoke about Gabriel in my team selection video last week being a good captaincy option. A lot of people went for it, and fair play if you did, because it has worked absolute wonders for you so far this week, because of course all the numbers we are seeing here and how much of a magnet he is from set plays, and given the fact that Arsenal are just scoring so many goals from set plays, as you can see, 10 already so far this season, with the best XG set plays as well. All of that for me does kind of just accumulate to them being just a fantastic defensive pickup, and maybe like I said, that triple up in terms of defenders is going to be on for this season. A player that we've spoke about briefly in both sets of drafts, but I wanted to give a little bit more of a shout out to, is of course going to be Minter as well from Brighton. They've got some pretty steady fixtures coming up over the next few weeks. I think Palace is probably their hardest game within the next 5 game weeks. Other than that, some absolutely stellar fixtures where I think at 6 million he could be a very, very nice differential option as well. 1 goal, 5 assists. The underlying numbers are looking pretty decent as well. He's managed to hit defensive contributions once this season. I wouldn't really be expecting that from him in most weeks. However, for 6 million does just feel like a really, really good, cheap potential pickup as well that, could do exceptionally well over the next few weeks. The fixtures are definitely there. His link-up play, and from an eye test perspective, has really been passing it. And of course, if you are a more analytical-based manager, then the review, Solio, have all been recommending this guy, and for very, very good reason when, of course, the fixtures are looking so good. His eye test performances are also looking very, very good, and the underlying data as well is also looking very, very good. So at 6 million, he could be a nice, cheap differential potential option as well that enables you to go and obviously build some, better teams as well. In terms of the other players we have, of course, selected in here, Mateta and Haaland pretty much going to be in there. We're going to do a bit more of a detailed dive in terms of Virgil van Dijk as well. However, the rest of the team, very similar-ish kind of picks that I've gone for. The main focus of this team, like I said, was the triple Arsenal defence. Let me know in the comment section, are you thinking about potentially going for that triple up in terms of Arsenal defence? Because like I said, the numbers are looking ridiculously strong. Let me know in the comment section. Okay, let's finish off today's video then with the third and final draft. This one is going to be a more Liverpool-focused based draft. Of course, there's fixtures taking a big swing in game week 12, so I think people are, of course, going to be looking to get a little bit ahead of the curve if you are on a wild card for this game week. So looking at the likes of Virgil, Salah, maybe a Gakpo, maybe an Ekitike, some of these options might, of course, be starting to run through your mind if you are on a wild card, or, of course, if you're just looking for transfers as well. And that is going to be the big focus around this team as well. Let's first of all take a look back at the 11FI projected numbers then. If you want to go and check out 11FI's data, there is a link to the description to their amazing website if you do. But as you can see here, some of their numbers over the next few weeks, Liverpool, once you get that Manchester City game out the way, are looking very, very good. The fixtures are definitely there. The projected goal numbers are looking stupendous, and definitely something I think a lot of us FPL managers are, of course, going to be looking to focus on over the next few weeks, with some great fixtures, like I said, coming up for Liverpool over that time period as well. Obviously as well, captaincy dependent, you are probably going to be looking at other alternative options, with City having some more trickier games around game week 12 and of course in game week 14, with a little bit of a decrease in terms of their projected goals, and Liverpool's being extremely high. In fact, the best projected goals for game week 12 and game week 14 according to the 11FI model. So that for me suggests that of course we need to be considering Liverpool picks when on a wild card for game week 11 or game week 12 as well. Obviously, if we look over to the clean sheet side as well, we are seeing those numbers massively increase from what they have been. Of course, excluding game week 11, that is why you've seen every single draft feature Virgil van Dijk. He has been sat on the bench though with only a 16% chance of a clean sheet in game week 11. Outside of that though, their numbers are looking ridiculously good, and again, something I do think we need to be considering. And I can see a lot of FPL managers already within the community talking about Virgil van Dijk potentially being a very, very good option, and there's very good reasons for that. Let's head on to Virgil van Dijk then himself. It's purely down to the DEFCON numbers, right? The DEFCON numbers so far for him and Liverpool have been very, very good. 12 of his 40 points so far this season have, of course, come from those defensive contributions. Liverpool defensively have been a little bit of a shambles. If you've cast your mind back to the Fantasy Football Scout XG conceded chart, you would have seen Liverpool kind of like hovering towards the bottom half of that list. Not great numbers, respectively, from them so far this season. However, I do expect with some pretty steady fixtures in Nottingham Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds and Brighton after game week 12, for those numbers to of course continue to pick up. And if Virgil can of course hit those defensive contributions across that period, he is going to be a very, very nice pickup, where you are of course expecting Liverpool to keep a lot of clean sheets across that period. He does of course have the set piece threat. We've seen it in the Champions League already this season, yet to kind of migrate itself over to the Premier League. But you think that the way the Premier League is going right now, with it so obviously being kind of eccentric around you know, set plays, I do think there is going to be a tactical shift from slot, and probably there is going to be more of a focus around set plays for Liverpool as the season does progress. And obviously one of their big main targets for that is going to be the massive Virgil van Dijk. But for me, it is those defensive contribution numbers that have been so good so far this season. If Liverpool can sort themselves out defensively across this period and head into a decent run with some great projected clean sheets, he at 6 million could be a fantastic pick on the wild card for this game week. Obviously, we can't finish the video without talking about Mohamed Salah as well. He featured in the wild card draft, as you saw. Again, the same Liverpool fixtures. Again, the projected data from 11FI suggesting it is going to be a pretty fruitful period for Liverpool as well. And his underlying numbers have started to trend in the right direction over the past few weeks. They have started to get a little bit better in terms of his XGI. Maybe a little bit of a slow start to the season, maybe just gelling with the players around him. Maybe this is going to be the start of what we're starting to see with Mohamed Salah. A 10-pointer in game week 10, a 6-pointer in game week 9 as well. He is starting to find attacking returns yet again, and it's come down a little bit in price. Still quite expensive though for 14.2 million, but definitely could be a captaincy option with the games against Nottingham Forest, West Ham and Leeds, in my personal opinion. Probably Sunderland at home as well could also be a fixture where you would want to go for Mohamed Salah in terms of captaincy as well. So he is definitely opening himself up as an option before the African Cup of Nations. Like I said though, I do probably need to see a decent performance from him against Manchester City to fully, for me, invest in that. However, if I was on a wild card, definitely could be one of those punty players you do go for. It is just quite an expensive gamble at 14.2 million. The problem with this side though, with the Haaland and Salah team, for me, personally does feel like you do have to make quite a few sacrifices. As you can see, we've got a little bit of a cheaper defence. Our midfield kind of coverage and forward coverage on the bench as well is pretty much non-existent. Xhaka and Koulibaly can do a definite job, but I wouldn't be, happy to rely on them every single week. Same with Minter. I think when the good fixtures are there for Brighton, great. Obviously, when they get a little bit more difficult, he probably would be a transfer out. But like for me, I think that's been the big problem with the Haaland and Salah drafts that everybody has built so far, is of course that they do just lack a little bit of quality across the pitch. However, with cheap defenders doing exceptionally well this season, the Richards, the Andersons, the Senessis, there is that option to maybe make this a option in FPL this season. And like I said, it could be something that you do consider going forward on the wild card. Let me know which favourite team was yours. Was it 1, 2 or 3? Let me know in the comment section below. Of course, if you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in as we'll try to answer as many as we possibly can. But thank you for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 11.